see, that protest you mentioned now became very controversial. The End Bad Governance protest was built around for 10 days. There are people who say, well, that protest didn't achieve its goal because the question you're asking yourself the whole time is, what exactly changed on account of that protest?
Anyway, I haven't seen any protest in Nigeria that lasts for 10 days on a stretch. For that protest to be planned, I don't really care who planned it. For that protest to be planned and it ran across the country for like 3 to 4 days shows that citizens were actually activated. You see, the role of security agents in protests in Nigeria need to really be looked at. And the press were assaulted. Citizens who came out for the protest were also assaulted. Perhaps in as much as you want to come out and protest that government isn't serving you well, it's not for you to go out there and die. Because you need to speak with the government. If protest is the only language they understand, you speak to the government through protest. But I can tell you that for that protest that involved Nigerian youths to last up to that 3, 4 or a few days tells you that citizens, especially the youths, are informed about the goings on in government and how it affects them. And the security agency, for the first time, especially in Abuja, there was a controversial court case that confined protesters to a particular location, which has never happened. I know people that have served as governor for 8 years, who were labor leaders, who led labor movements, who led the protests around the country. They were never gagged and confined to a particular location. But Nigerian youths obeyed. They went to that location. Despite being in that location, they were targets of guns from military agents. So little wondered how they could have still be on the streets, watch the military security agents, military police and others just going straight at them and begin to kill them. Of course, they are not there to be killed. They are there to make their views heard by the government in power, which I believe the government in power at the end of the day, even though in the beginning of the protest failed to come out and address them, the pressure mounted on the government, and eventually the government gave a broadcast. All of that, the pressure made the government give that broadcast. Whether things went on as usual or not is another ball game altogether. But you see, the youth of this country are resilient. They are strong, they are intelligent, they are creative. They just need soft landing from the government to be able to turn things around, both for themselves and for the economy.
What's the challenge? We say the youth are the leaders of tomorrow. They are the future leaders. I mean, we say all sorts of things about them and their future. But why is it such, as I always say, rocket science for that to become the reality instead of being more of a theory?
I can't say it's more of a theory because youths are holding positions in Nigeria. A couple of youths are holding positions. Depends on the youth brackets you're talking about, because you see a lot of adults these days who are claiming to be youth just because of politics. But a lot of youths are holding positions at the local government, at all the 3 tiers of government, and a lot of them are making impacts. Whether they come out to be recognized by the media or not, but as a gender activist, a media personality, I know a couple of them. I encounter a lot of them. I have mentored a lot of them. I've been involved in a lot of their activities, some successful, some not successful, because any maiden edition will have its own challenge. And those that are in government, a couple of them are doing well. youth being the leaders of tomorrow, the current leaders of today, they started that as youths. The president, for instance, was a senator in his 30s, and that's still a youth bracket. And then he became a governor, and today is the president. So it behoves on those in power to recognize more youths and bring them on board. Because today, being in the corridors of power or being a government appointee seems to take the lead in youth employment, which not ought to be so. The industrial hub of Nigeria needs to be activated so that more youths can have their way in those sectors. And the driving force why those sectors are not fully activated is because of the lack of adequate electricity. Because no country develops without adequate power. No matter what you are thinking of there, you need to bring it to reality using adequate electricity to activate them. You are empowering youths, you train them, you give them soft loans to start off. But if electricity is not adequate, a lot of them, by the second or third cycle, they just go under. And that brings me to the SMS, small and medium enterprise.
The
SMEs that are the drivers of any economy. Go to Asia, go to India, go to China. The SMEs are where the governments actually focus a lot of their attention, apart from the big infrastructures like railways, adequate road and whatever, which still affects the SMEs. If you allow the SMEs to go under because of lack of power, no matter how much you are empowering them, they cannot have reach ultimate productivity. So that's why I'm saying that you just came on board and you're doing band A, band B, and the electricity is not adequate, like it plots for people to just pay more. Not that you have improved on the infrastructure on the ground. So it's not agreeing well with where we are today in Nigeria. Imagine how many graduate Nigerian churns out every now and then, NYSC and others. At the end of the day, what is the percentage of those youths that are gainfully employed? We're not talking of underemployment. You're talking of real-time employment that will make a youth to be able to afford even if it's a mortgage for a car, it's mortgage for a house, and be able to get married, settle down and trade. It's not the one that you just are there, you're feeling that you are employed, you end up just only being able to transport yourself and now to feed. And you just rub off of whatever you are aiming.
Well, let's talk about one of the things that President Bola Tinubu did this year, which some people say, well, on the one hand, it was not overdue. On the other hand, they say better late than never. Therefore, their conclusion is that it took courage for him to make that move, which was the rejigging, or if you like, the reshuffling of cabinets. What's your assessment of that action?
Number one, I dare to say that for an economy like Nigeria, that is a managing economy. I call it a managing economy because an economy that is not productive, not fully productive, because your productive sector is not fully activated. You attain a productive economy by what you can export and earn forex, and not what you can import. If what you are importing is more than what you are exporting, that economy is really not a productive economy. And then instead of cutting down on governance, you are increasing governance by having about 50 ministers that has never been heard in this country. And the ministers, even the media persons, we barely know some of them. And then part of what the bad governance request was for you to reduce your cabinets, and at the end of the day you just barely removed 2, 3 or 4 and added and added more. For me, it does not all go well for a country like Nigeria, because what has been sustaining this country is this extended family system. But I think that if we need to do what is right for this economy to grow, that we need to look into a lot of the sectors of the economy that can employ political loyalists, not by just giving them appointments and a lot of them go to the office. They are not actually working, they are just there because they delivered for the president in their states, in their local during election, and we call them compensation position. You understand? There must be a yardstick, there must be a timeline for deliverables. That means that there must be a very clear job description for any position that you are putting people, and a clear timeline between 3 and 6 months or even 1 year for you to know whether they have delivered or not. And then you just take them up, because there are so many million Nigerians that if you advertise for those positions and you want to be transparent about putting people in your cabinet, you find people in all sectors of the economy that can fill up those positions that are not political.
I'm just curious, is it not political? Is it not extremely unconventional? I mean, across the board for you to advertise such positions for political appointments?
There can be someone who will say, okay, half of my cabinets can be political appointments and fill the remaining position with technocrats.
And professionals.
And professionals. Professionals are, a lot of them are technocrats. What Obasanjo did during his time, bringing Okonjo-Iweala, that was not a politician, bringing Dora Akunyili, that was not a politician. You saw what Jonathan did, bringing the man at ADB, Akinwumi, that was not a politician. A couple of them came in that were not politicians. You see, there are a lot of sectors that you bring in technocrats to run them. I am not saying that all the sectors of the economy are not to be manned by very qualified persons. Even the political appointments, a lot of them are qualified for it. But on a normal setting, some of them will not have gotten the position that they are occupying presently, if not because they delve into those political inclinations. What should happen is that there are some sectors that you bring technocrats to drive those sectors. You understand? It's not just by bloating the cabinet. Number one, when you look at the Nigerian constitution, it didn't give room for minister of states. It gives room for ministers from each state, making it 36 and FCT
37. Right.
Even a current serving minister said it, that ministers of state is not in the constitution. Unfortunately, it has come to stay right from since democracy started under the Obasanjo government. For me, you don't need to overbloat the cabinet, because the more you overbloat the cabinet, the more you spend so much maintaining people, a lot of people that, when you look at the indicators, they are not as efficient as they ought to be.
Is it not a matter of, I mean, is it not a valid argument to say the idea of having ministers of states is a matter of sheer necessity? Yes, granted, the government, the constitution does not make that provision, does not even envisage such an idea or principle or practice of minister of state appointment, but then they say for the federal character to make sense given our reality as a country and as a people, so let's have the minister of state factor there. So if we were to abolish it first thing tomorrow morning, what kind of boomerang impact would that have?
See, the Federal Character Commission itself will be followed. If you translate the constitution well, it says that one minister per state and FCT. That's already federal character. You see, because of political loyalists, those who coordinated for me, those who campaigned for me, those who did this for me. That is how the Minister of State came to stay, which has made the government at the top overbloated. You see, I think Nigeria is the only country colonized by the British that is not running province. There is no country that I know, especially in this sub-Saharan Africa, or even in the British colony, that can afford a minister per state. They run their countries in province, and it is easier to coordinate doing province than just taking ministers here and there. And if you were not running province, like the geopolitical zone Nigeria was running,
like the regional government
that Nigeria was running before, you can sustain the 37 ministers, 36 states and FCT, and give them timeline. If you give a minister timeline and the minister is not able to make up, when you take out the minister, you replace the minister. Because if you continue to run governance like this, borrowing, international borrowing to pay salaries, this economy cannot survive it. You imagine one minister will have as many SEs, SSEs, PEs, and at the end of the day, some of them are just docile. They don't have a clear job description for them to deliver on. So you run compensatory governance and the economy is not moving. For me, it's not the right thing to do. You see, we need to face reality in governance in Nigeria to say what we are doing has actually deviated from what will give us that global indicators to say that this economy is growing. If National Bureau of Statistics keep churning out figures that this economy is growing and is not growing in employment, is growing in underemployment, it means the per capita income is still very low. So if unemployment is at about 34% for a country that has the amount of youthful population that we have, it should concern those that are in power. To say that you send a child to school to go and study, and that child comes out for 10 years, 5 years or more, the child is unemployed. And you ask yourself, is unemployed or underemployed? And you ask yourself, how is this child coping? A lot of families have 3-4 graduates at home that they are still feeding after graduation. Nigerian social security system that is just being activated is actually not working, because what cannot go around cannot seem to be working. Where is the data? What data are you using? What data are you using?
So are you saying we cannot rely or repose confidence in the data provided by the National Bureau of Statistics?
No.
So why is that?
The data provided by the National Bureau of Statistics can be relied upon. The data that cannot be relied upon is the one for the social investments that are being churned out, which I see that what criteria are you using to know those that are underemployed and those that are not employed, so to benefit from whatever you are churning out. And I dare to say that they are all palliative. Globally, palliative does not run an economy. I keep saying it at every forum that I find myself, where I have opportunity to speak. India, $1 billion plus. China, $1 billion plus. And Nigeria is just over 200 million people. With what God has endowed this country with in terms of human capital, in terms of mineral resources, in terms of other petroleum resources that Nigeria have been in since 1958, and you have a useful population, that palliative cannot win the Nigerian economy. Because now you see palliative here, palliative there, stamping to collect palliative. No country in the world have survived. No country in growth indicators have improved just by giving palliative. It does not work, and it will not work for Nigeria. It is better for Nigeria to understudy countries that have genuinely sat down, hold conferences, put stakeholders together, so to know how the economy can grow. Look at the electricity condition. I keep talking about electricity condition in Nigeria. When you wake up and do a band A, band B, band this, band that, and you think that you just want to have revenue somewhere, and you are not running, you are not thinking of how the economy will run, it is a big problem to even manufacturers that should employ.
I know that you've raised the issue of power sector, which again, without having to reflect the issue, is very critical to an economy that wants something that's ambitious, such as Nigeria's. But can you entirely blame the problem of the power sector on cabal? Because everybody already hears cabal. The cabal in the power sector is so strong, and it's almost like the minister of that ministry, Chief Adebayo Adelabu, is overwhelmed.
I'm not sure the minister is overwhelmed, because if you are appointed a minister of a sector, you have to do a lot of stakeholders engagements around the country. You call for town halls, because that sector was privatized, and despite its privatization, government kept giving them money to operate, and yet the power sector refuse to grow. So you call for stakeholders engagements, you do town hall, even if you call it the 6th geopolitical zone in the country, and get direct feedback from citizens that the power sector is meant to serve. That didn't happen. The man did not understand the power sector before he came.
That's the minister.
Yes, the minister. And while he got in there, he did not make out time to understand the power sector. Those who acquired stake in it did it for the profitability, not because they added value to it. I can't see any of the power sector, especially where I am, the AEDC, that has a call center where I can lay complaint, for instance, for customer service interface. You have problem with your power, you have to use your phone and time, you drive to their office, they keep a register log there, where you log in and they tell you to go home, the engineers will come and meet you, and because the engineers are overrun, you end up sleeping in darkness. You see, for stakeholders who took over such sectors, who actually came to work for the money, the first thing is to rejig their engineering sector, is to have a customer service interface and hotlines where consumers can actually reach them and give them feedback, and also have complaints if the engineers are not doing what they are supposed to do. We have in some areas, like the area I live, where our transformer keeps shutting down. Either it's vandalized, which is not their fault. We contribute money and we buy what they ask us to buy. There are times we stay 3 months without lights, even now that we are in band A. The last time we had to collect signatures, we called the lawyers to write, we go through the PAMSEC, NEC, the ministry, and this and that. At the end of the day, the power came. As we speak now, you can barely use 1 hour or 2 without the power going off. And you are on band A and band B without adequate supply. What I'm saying in essence is that for an economy to grow, the sector needs to be fully liberalized, that it has been done during the last tenure of the outgone President Muhammadu Buhari. And the states, even though the states were generating, some of the states were generating, but they need to put it up for the federal government to transmit, because it's the federal government that has the transmission lines. But now I heard that some states like Abia, Akwa Ibom and others, they are generating and partially transmitting. I think the state governments need to do what they ought to do. They shouldn't still be waiting on the federal government. If that sector, since that sector has been liberalized, the states can actually generate electricity, various type of electricity for their citizens, because they're looking for internally generated revenue, IGR, to run the economy. You cannot get IGI from men and women who do not have electricity, businessmen and women who do not have adequate power to run their businesses. So they need to go into power generation, power distribution. No matter how small they start with, they start and grow on it. The states can also do solar energy. You get to homes have electricity, they have a power generating sets, they still have solar panel, all in one house. So if you spend as much as that to generate your own power, how much of the IGR is government going to get from you when government have not invested adequately in power supply for you to use to run your businesses? And see how it affects security. Because imagine when your streets are dark at night, the type of criminalities that happens under darkness. Because when youths are not employed and you have a lot of pressure on them, they look for another way. I'm not saying that criminality is the right thing, but you can imagine the type of pressure that is going on. A lot of Nigerian families are extended family system. You can imagine the type of criminality that goes on. In any case, if the country had adequate power supply to activate industrialization, a lot of these youth, even the Badambola, the scandals you are seeing on the street, they also be gainfully employed in factories. Let me tell you that gainfully employed in factories does not mean that you are educated. You may be less educated or you don't even have education at all, but you can be gainfully employed in factories. Factories have 8-hour shifts. You can decide to do a night duty in one factory and you go to another factory and do night duty, or you do double shift just to earn more than. You know, if you're not, youths are not gainfully employed, they are not educated, I mean to say, and they find themselves working in production lines. Whatever they learn on that production line, they fly with it wherever they leave this production line, whether by being relieved of the duty or whether they are tired of work.
Or they have to leave voluntary.
Or they have to leave voluntary. They cannot set up their own business. Imagine the clothes that we wear. Imagine the button that a factory, a garment factory, the people who tag button in garment factory.
Right.
You can imagine how much they earn. I think that will now push up the youth to middle class.
And of course ramp up productivity for Nigeria.
It's me you're talking.
We need to take a quick break right now because we need to start wrapping up. But we're coming back shortly, everyone, to wrap up this conversation, looking at some of the events that have shaped national development in Nigeria all through the course of the year 2024. That's and more coming shortly. Will stay with us. for staying with us. Let's jump right quickly. Let's make the most of the next 5 minutes to talk about the subsidy removal, because for some people that's the elephant in the room. But let's not go into why it was removed and how it was removed. Let's talk about some of the changes that have happened lately. For example, one of the two refineries in Port Harcourt is not working. Just yesterday, news came through with the president expressing excitement about Warri Refinery now producing at 60% capacity. You may say, yeah, that's far from where we should be, but it's better than where we had been as a country. And now some marketers are beginning to say that given these developments, there's a chance that there will be further reduction in the price of petrol. Are we supposed to clap and maybe just celebrate anything?
Anyway, it also shapes this year that is outgoing. I personally am of the opinion that subsidy ought not to have been removed. Not in the manner in which it was removed. Because if there was corruption in subsidy, you fight the corruption in subsidy and bring people to book. No one is bigger than the state. No businessman is bigger than the state. And no businessman is so big that the state cannot investigate and try when it comes to issues that affect.
But they say it's not as easy as the president. It's not as easy for the president as it is for you who is on television this morning.
It also be easy for the president because the president is the president. That is why it ought to be easy from the president. Forget these talks of not easy or not easy, except the president have vested interests in that sector of the economy. Otherwise, if EFCC is trying high-profile citizens in Nigeria, why won't EFCC investigate and try oil sector cabal? Because they have the duty and responsibility. Because the sabotage on Nigerian economy by oil cabal needs to stop. And then let's come back to reviving of Port Harcourt and Warri Refinery. Under the last administration, we're told that $1.5 billion was spent to revive the Port Harcourt Refinery, and it didn't see the light of the day. I, in person, ought to be very excited that refineries are coming up. But will you just take, because Dangote has built a refinery for the NNPC to set up, then Dangote also have built a refinery long ago so that NNPC can set up. Because I am seeing that NNPC is challenged because of the Dangote refinery. I am from the oil producing region in Nigeria. I am not supposed to be buying fuel for the amount I'm buying it today because I am from that oil producing region. And the reason is not far-fetched because you cannot be parts, you cannot, what is behind your house cannot be processed and you are paying so much for it. It shouldn't be. And the Port Harcourt refinery, the Warri Refinery that just come up running now, you can see that the Nigerians are not, even though Nigerians are happy that the refineries are coming up straight, that real excitement is not there because what you are buying the fuel at is not reasonable. You go to the filling station, you are not seeing vehicles driving in and out, not because they don't have the products. They have the product, but of the affordability of those products. People have grounded their vehicles because they cannot afford constantly to buy fuel for their amounts. So
you're saying it's not new yet, so you have more work.
It's not new here. If you say you have brought it down to 900 and something, that's still about 1,000 naira per liter. Is that sustainable? How can the economy grow? How can the sectors that are they are needed to grow? How can they still afford it to be able to employ Nigerian citizens? How can people move around? Because if people don't move, people don't earn. Everywhere in the world,
there will be constant
transportation and security, they go together. You look at all the cities in Abuja, you are not seeing mass transit navigating the city left, right and center. that you just walk to the bus stop, the mass transit just come, every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes, every 20, even every 30 minutes, you jump into it and go to where you are. We're not saying the metro lines that will move people around with the type of population that we have. Otherwise, why should I be driving after 30-something years?
I think that question.
After 30-something years.
I think that question.
People are even tired of
driving. I can imagine that question is something, or one of the things we should take into 2025 with the mindset that we need to find answers to that. But the president was very clear yesterday when he expressed optimism and of course excitement over this development with regards to the Warri refinery. He said, look, with what we have seen, or if you like achieved, with one of the two refineries in Port Harcourt and now with that in Warri, it means it's high time the leadership of the NNPCL under Dr. Menakeri goes ahead to fix the second one in Port Harcourt and then extends that same drive to Kaduna refinery. We hope all of that will happen, because if we are already hearing that at this point there's a pretty good chance that the price of petroleum products will go further down, it means by the time these two other facilities are up and running, regardless of the capacity of output, there will be much brighter lights in front of us. I'd like to say a big thank you to my guest this morning who has made our time to be part of this conversation with Rotarian Princess Salima Jibril. She is a journalist. She doubles as well as a public affairs analyst and gender activist. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
A pleasure.
All right, great. I will take a quick break, everyone. When we return, we stretch this conversation further, this time with another gentle look at how much citizens have participated in their lives, by that I mean in democracy in Nigeria in the last 365 days. for joining us again for the second discussion. This year, 2024, we're seeing a handful of protests here and there, but people say the most prominent of them all was the End Bad Governance protest, which lasted for, or at least was the last for 10 days, between the 1st and the 10th of August. The issue of whether that protest actually quote-unquote hit targets remains a debate of some kind, because for some people it was far from what had already been the targets at that point in time. But for whatever it's worth, there are those who are of the opinion that for the president to have given a broadcast by way of response to that protest, it means it was worth something after all. However, whether it has changed anything or what exactly it has changed in the way the country is being governed is another kettle of fish altogether. But let's use that as a basis to discuss how much Nigerians have been involved, or if you like, participated in the governance of this country in 2024. I'm joined by Dominic Ogaku, who is a politician and a civil rights activist, to help us find some sort of, if you like, perspectives and insights in this direction. Thank you, Dominic. It's been a while you've been here.
Yeah, thanks so much. Really nice for having me.
Yes, the pleasure is all ours. But let's talk about, you are a rights activist, for example. You're very interested in civic issues and how those issues also shape direction as a country, for example. How would you assess the extent to which citizens have participated in democracy this 2024?
That's a very nice place to start this discussion, because I actually am at the front row of citizens' action against whatever kind of leadership, whether it's bad leadership, whether it is a leadership that has so many questions to it. And so I believe that gauging or measuring citizens' participation with regards to the leadership of their country is one of the major areas to look at as we round up the 2024 cycle. One thing you can be rest assured is that Nigerians are more aware of leadership issues. Nigerians are more involved, given the harsh economic realities. Everybody now knows that government play a vital role, a key role in their daily survival. So I must say that there is a new discussion, there's a new narrative out there. People are more concerned about what goes on in government. And I look forward to seeing more of that now, 2025, 2026, and even as we move towards another election cycle. I think these issues will become very evident. So I must say that the citizens of Nigeria are no longer lackadaisical the way they used to be towards governance issue. You can see what happened with the removal of subsidy. You can tell what happens in the market with the consistent rise of food prices. These are all based on the decisions of those in government, and they're affected so much with regards to how citizens perceive government in all regard. So I believe that participation of citizens with regards to governance has actually improved. There's a high level of improvement. People now tend to see government and they are trying to take ownership of government. You try to make allusion to what really transpired during the Bad Governance.
Right.
That was a turning point. Whether you like it or not, for the first time, government was held accountable. If you see how jittery they became, if you see how troubled they were at that point, they did everything to try to break the ranks of those who were involved in actually trying to manage that protest and all that. So I think on the whole, we can see that there's a high improvement with regards to citizens' participation in leadership.
Incidentally, this year we had two off-cycle elections, governorship elections, I should say, Edo, and we had Ondo, for example. I'm not so sure you were on the ground in those two states, about 2 months apart. But let's talk about how we can use that as, if you like, a yardstick to gauge how much the people, citizens, have become more involved in the political process, not just talking on television or running around social media platforms, but actually being on the ground to participate in the process.
Well, like the two elections, the two off-cycle elections that you mentioned, they are very critical to